So, how many of you have heard of or watched the show Prison Break? Okay. So, any of you who know that mostly everybody in that prison were bad people, but in Robben Island, it was a maximum security prison for political leaders, and that didn't stop them from making a change. I think it's important for us to understand that even when people are being limited to things, they can still do something extraordinary. And for example, aren't we all kind of living in a prison, being told what we can and cannot do? And I have been researching this topic for about 2 weeks, and I feel like I have the knowledge to give you, the audience, a better understanding on what Robben Island is. First, I will discuss the history of Robben Island. Then I will discuss what prisoners did while they were in prison. And then I will discuss how it changed the former prisoner Nelson Mandela. So, in order to understand where Robben Island got to where it is today, we have to see where it started from. And according to robbenisland.org, in the early 1400s, it was a prison for rebel sailors. And then the prison became well known by when the Dutch took over. And then 1961 to 1991, that's when the prison was actually made for political leaders. And before it became a prison, it was used as a place to rest and to restock on water and natural resources. And it is now a World Heritage Site, and people describe it as the University of Life. So now that I've talked about the history of Robben Island, I will talk to you on what the prisoners did. As a prisoner, there's no place you would rather be than home. And if you were to get life, you want to make the prison cell feel as much as home as possible. So the prisoners at Robben Island had it very hard. The buckets that they had within their cell was where they peed and stuff like that, and they had to dump it out every day. Their bed was the floor, and they had to do hard labor work such as gardening. They kept the island clean, they maintenance the road, and while the prisoners would work, they would sing, and that would make them uplift. It would uplift their spirits and souls. But the guards, and I guess they saw that they were happy while they were doing the work, so they banned them from singing ever again. And oh yeah, that's their prison cell. And this is what they did for hard labor. And while they were in prison in Robben Island, they were only allowed one visit a year, and they could only send and receive a letter every 6 months. But the prisoners got tired of this, so they started doing many resistances, such as petitions. They did hunger strikes, and they wanted to let people know what was going on inside the prison. And now, finally, I'm going to talk about how it changed Nelson Mandela. No, it might sound depressing, but Nelson Mandela served 18 years at Robben Island, but it changed him for the better. There is no doubt that he was a smart man, and while he was in prison there, he got the guards to get on his side. Even though the guards knew that there would be consequences if they were to be caught, they still went on his side anyway. According to a newspaper article published in 2013 by the Los Angeles Times by R. Dixon, sorry. So he emerged and fought to get out of prison and create a new Africa. He based his government solely on poverty, inequality, and to dismantle the apartheid legacy. Before he was in prison, he was known as a hothead. And when he went into prison, the only way he thought he would be able to get out is to start a violent revolution. But if he wasn't, but without him seeing the positives inside his darkest hours of being in prison in Robben Island, he wouldn't have been the remarkable speaker he was. or leader when he walked free out of the prison. And now that I've discussed the history of Robben Island, let's wrap things up. First, I discussed the history of Robben Island, then I discussed what the prisoners did while they were in prison, and then I discussed how it changed the former prisoner Nelson Mandela. And today, it is a popular tourist destination, and the tours that are given around the prison are actually by former prisoners, so I hope you guys take the initiative, and I probably will one day, and go there and tour the prison myself. Thanks.